In this video, you're going to learn how to graph a parabola in vertex form. So let's first take a look about what vertex form is. So the vertex form of a parabola is going to be y equals a parentheses x minus h squared plus k. So notice this looks a lot like absolute value, and it's going to do the exact same things. So let's take some notes. A is going to be the number out front. If A is positive, our graph is going to open up. So I'm going to have an open up U shape. If A is negative, that means I'm going to have an opening down U-shaped parabola. Okay? This inside, that X will always be there. The H is going to be the horizontal shift. And horizontal is going to be from right to left. So it's either going to move our graph right or it's going to move our graph left. And it is the opposite, remember. So if that was a minus 2, instead of going to the left 2, we would go to the right 2. And if that was a negative, no, if that was a positive 2, we would actually go to the left 2. So inside is opposite because of this squared term, which will always be there. And then K is called the vertical shift. And again, vertical means up or down. So if it was positive, you would go up, and if it was negative, you would go down. Okay? So H is the horizontal shift, K is the vertical shift. So our vertex is going to be H comma K. So the vertex, which is the first thing we're going to find, is H comma K. So what you're going to have to do is change this sign in here and then keep that number for your vertex. Okay? So let's take a look at some examples. So again, this is the first page, or the top of your paper, and then this is the bottom of the paper. So I'm going to be flipping between these two. So I need to graph x squared. So let me take a look at this down here. So when you have something squared, for example, if I was to plug in 1 right here, 1 squared would give me a 1. So if I go over 1, I have to go up 1. If I were to plug in a 2, 2 squared is a 4. So if I go over 2, I have to go up 4. And again, if we were to continue that, 3 squared would be 9, and then 4 squared would be 16. Okay? So these 4 things, this table right here is probably the most important thing. It's kind of how you do your slope. It's how you move and make your graph. So again, if you can memorize these, or you can know that if you go over 1, 1 times 1 is 1. If you go over 2, you're going to go up a 4. Okay? Because this column is going to mean up or down. Okay? All right, so first thing we're going to do is the graph of x squared going to open up or down? Well, since there's no number here, I'm going to assume that number's a 1, which is positive, so it's going to open upward because your A is positive. Okay? Your vertex, there are no numbers here, which means your vertex is starting at 0, 0. The axis of symmetry, remember, goes through the vertex. It goes through the x point. So your axis of symmetry would be x equals to 0. Remember, domain is always all real numbers. And then the range is going to be the y part. And since it's opening up, we're going to have greater than or equal to, and then you're going to have that y number. So let's look at this table while we graph the equation. Okay? So the first thing I have to do is start at 0, 0, because that was my vertex. You will always plot your vertex first. So then you're going to do that table again, which was 1, 2, 3, 4, which is how far you go over. And then you've got the 1, 4, 9, 16 for how far you go up. So what you're going to do from this vertex is go over 1, up 1. But you're going to do the exact same thing on the left, but you're going to go over 1 and up 1. Okay? And then you're going to do it again. So you're going to go over 2 and up 4. So go over 2, up 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're going to do the same thing on the left side. You're going to go over 2 on the left side and up 4 and make a point. So notice the points are symmetrical, which is how they should be. So I'm going to go over 3, up 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then if you can get the hang of it, you know it's going to be symmetrical. So then you're going to connect these points to make a best U-shaped graph as you can with some arrows at the end. And this is what the graph of x squared looks like. Okay. So now we're going to look at some ways we can change this graph to make it wider, move it up, move it down, right, and etc. But this is the generic form of x squared. So let's take a look at this problem. I'm going to flip to your bottom side. We've got 1/2 x minus 4 squared and then a negative 3. So remember the parent function, if I went over 1, it was 1, 4, 9, and 16. So that's the generic function, or parent function. So for the translation, this 1/2, what you do is multiply the outside number by the parent function. So you're going to take all those numbers and multiply it by the number they give you on the outside. Okay? So 1 times 1/2 is going to be 1/2, or 0.5. 4 times 1/2 is going to be 2. So notice we're just dividing by 2. 9 divided by 2 is 4.5. And then 16 divided by 2 is an 8. So this is what I'm going to be using for my graph from now on, if there is a number outside of your parentheses. Okay? All right, but let's see if it's going to open up or down. It's going to open up because A is positive. So it's going to open up. So I would expect it to look something like this. To find your vertex, you're going to change this sign to a positive 4, and you're going to keep that sign of a negative 3. Okay? So your vertex is at a 4, negative 3. Your axis of symmetry is going to be x equals through that x value of your vertex. Again, domain is always our real numbers. The range is going to be y greater than or equal to, because it's opening up, and then it's going to be the y point of your vertex. Okay? So now when you graph this, the first thing you do is graph this vertex. So I'm going to flip to the next page and graph 4, negative 3. So go right 4, down 3. So there's your vertex. Okay? So now we have to do that slope little table from right here. So you're going to go over 1 and then go up 1/2. So I'm going to go here and go over 1 and up like 1/2. So I'm going to go in between and then do it on the same side. So I went over 1, up 1/2. And now I'm going to go over 2, up 2. So over 2, up 2. Left 2 and up 2. And then I believe it was over 3 and then up 4.5. So over 3, up 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And then go over 3, 1, 2, 3, up 1, 2, 3, 4, and a little half. And then the last one was over 4 and up 8. So you'll go over 1, 2, 3, 4, and up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then on the same side over there. So here is your parabola. So notice when you put 1/2 out front, it's going to make it open a little bit wider. So that's opening up more. Okay, so that's how you graph parabolas. So let's take a look at one that's negative. So in this case, that negative out front is going to mean I'm going to open down. Okay. But remember, to find our slope and stuff, our parent function is always 1, 4, 9, and 16. And if I have a number out front, I have to times it by that number for all of those to find my new slope. So 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. 9 times 2 is negative 18. And then 16 times 2 is negative 32. So we're only probably going to be able to graph this much on our graph, but that's still good. Okay, so the vertex now, you need to pull from the inside first and then the outside. So you are going to change the sign of a positive 3 to a negative 3, and you're going to keep that 4 on the outside. So the axis of symmetry, again, is always x equals your x number. Domain is always all real numbers. And then range, in this case, since it was opening down, that is going to be a less than or equal to sign. And then again, our y point of our vertex. So now let's graph that. So the first thing you do is graph your vertex. So I'm going to go negative 3, positive 4. So on this graph, negative 1, 2, 3, positive 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So now that table was saying to go over 1, and negative 2 means down 2. So I'm going to go over 1 and down 2. And then I'm going to do it on the other side, so back to the vertex and go over 1, down 2. Okay. And the other point said to go over 2, down 8. So you're going to go over 2, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if you hop over to the other side, there will be the other point. Okay. So that's enough points for us to get a good U-shaped parabola. And so we've graphed it. So again, the first thing to do is to plot your vertex. This graph makes sense because that's negative and my graph is opening down. Okay. So the next one is going to be a 3 on the outside. So what that means, first off, again, the parent function has a slope of 1, 4, 9, and 16. This 3 out front, again, I'm going to have to times it by 3 on all of these. So 1 times 3 is 3, and 4 times 3 is 12, and that's probably all I'm going to get to graph on a graph. So if it goes above 10, I probably wouldn't graph it. So then now is it going to open up or down? Since that 3 is positive, it's going to open up. Now to find your vertex, again, you're going to change this sign, so negative 3, and you're going to keep this one, so negative 4. Your axis of symmetry is always x equals the x value. Domain is always all real numbers. And then the range, since it's opening up, is going to be greater than or equal to your y value. Okay. So the first thing, again, when you're graphing is to graph your vertex. So I'm going to graph negative 3, negative 4. So negative 1, 2, 3, negative 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this graph is going to open up. So remember, these are our slope right here. I'm going to go over 1, up 3, and then I'm going to go over 2, up 12. So first I'm going to go over 1, up 3, and make a point, and do that same thing on the other side of that axis of symmetry. And then I'm going to go over 2, up 12. So over 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm going to hop over to the other side of that point and do the same thing. So here is our really skinny parabola. The reason it's super skinny is because that 3 was a bigger whole number. Okay. All right, why don't you try the last one on your own, and we will go over it. So press pause and try it. This is the graph I got for the last one. So notice that that negative is going to make it open down. My vertex was at a positive 2 and a negative 3. And then when you do this slope again, that negative 1 out front is going to be multiplied to change your slope. So instead of going over 1, up 1, you would go over 1, down 1, over 2, down 4. So I plotted my vertex 2, negative 3 right here. And then I went over 1, down 1, over 1, down 1. And then over 2, down 4, over 2, down 4. and that was enough points. So as long as you remember that this is 1, 4, 9, 16, and to multiply those numbers, you should be great. And that's how you graph parabolas. Thanks for watching.